So here we are again. We're actually recording this a bit early because I'm on holiday next week. But yeah, we need to keep the rhythm, so we decided to go for it already. Thanks for making the time. We were thinking about what can we discuss, and we had the thing like let's not do something about AI. I think in the end we'll end up about AI. But there is one thing.
It's very hard nowadays, right, to not talk about AI. Everything is related with it. Everything that moves
Yeah,
at the moment.
there is one thing that I hate about my car. And that's the fact that for a lot of things, you need to use the screen to do settings, which
Yeah.
is extremely annoying, which you have to read while you're driving. You have to make sure you. And actually, I guess you haven't seen it because you don't watch them really the news.
No, no, maybe not car related, but I understand your frustration. Every time I take a puppy and I try to connect with Bluetooth, it never works. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
come on.
But that's something else. But for me, it's like, I want to put on the heating and I have to touch on the screen instead of turning a knob, right? And so there is actually this week, Ferrari announced the interface of the new car. And why I don't care about cars at all, but why I care about this is because it's designed by Lawform, and Lawform is the former, it's founded by Jonathan Ive and Mark
Yeah.
Newton, I think, former people at Apple. And so they have designed the interior of this new Ferrari Luce, I think it's called, which is the first full electric Ferrari. And it's gorgeous. And actually, I follow one guy, Mike Matas. He's like also the designer of the Nest thermostat, for example, who also worked at Apple, and Johnny pulled him in. And he explained like how things are done. And what's really, what I think is very clear and obvious is it's all buttons, physical switches. There is screen, there is some kind of iPad-like screen, but there is so much subtlety in the buttons, the noises that they make, which is really a stamp on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, this is a total counterweight against the voice bots and everything typing and yeah.
So it's very tactile. They stay with
Yes.
buttons and without, I like that. But, aren't you like a fan of wouldn't you prefer to have voice conversation with your car, Andreas? Isn't that like
No,
what you want nowadays?
absolutely
No?
not. Shouting in the back that does not understand what I'm saying. And people that design voice interfaces, they always, I don't understand how they think that people will use it. They'll probably be at their desk, but then you have people next to you. You don't want to be talking to your computer, to your bank, like on voice, because then other people can hear what you're saying, right? Yeah, I hate this.
But you're also not a fan of voice notes, right? When somebody said you...
No.
Yeah.
Because what I do with messages is you can start typing a message, not finish it, and go back to it later, for example, or draft a message somewhere and then send it. If you're going to do it over voice, it's always going to be mumbling, or you're reading something out that you prepared up front, right?
Yeah. No.
I don't like it because it's so much easier to click in an interface. I was actually experimenting with something. So we use Harvest as the time tracking tool. And I figured, like, what if we have an MCP for Harvest, so that when basically you say at Claude, okay, we worked on this, but it also starts a timer based on the context it has. And
A
stops the
small
timer.
side note, Andreas is incredibly bad at time tracking, so I see
That's
what
why.
angle he's taking here.
And so I was like, yeah. And then I can now in my Claude say start the timer for the SaaS podcast. And it's then it goes look up like which projects it should belong in and stuff like that, which is nice. But I think it's a bit, clicking the button is still faster today. And it will never, unless, how it would work for me is that it would ping me like, hey, you don't have a timer running. You're doing this. Shall I start a timer? Then it makes sense.
Yeah, but that should be like a native integration of like the tool we're using Harvest. But then again, you're talking about clicking. I'm thinking like that's so like old school. You have to use shortcuts, Andreas. I do everything, even the time tracking. It's all shortcuts, tabbing.
Probably I'm too old for this.
Yeah. You've never, probably you weren't a gamer, right? I played games, so I had to do everything with shortcuts. If you click something, then you're.
Yeah, that's the problem is that we are forgetting about the people outside of our bubble.
True.
And
it's not inclusive of me to say that.
There was colleagues where people, where kids at home use a HomePod or whatever to put on music, I mean, my kids, they would fail at doing that, I think. I mean, they shout at the thing all the time and there's so much noise. I mean, that wouldn't work. So I think it's all nice in a very controlled environments. But what if you're at a festival and you need to do a bank transaction, you can only do it with voice? I mean, it makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's something that it makes me think about something I've discussed with some developers last week. Is we've got some people that are really good at Vim, right? Who do
Mhm.
are really, it's even magic for me when somebody goes Vim and they go all the way. And then I was wondering, or was having a conversation with one of them, like how are you using Vim nowadays? And I heard somebody say like a real Vim addict, and he said like, yeah, I'm considering switching IDEs to something that is more AI integrated. So yeah. It's changes the tool of everything. Maybe to wrap it up, I think that goes to show how we should probably rename this podcast into like how we felt to not talk about AI.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why I wanted to go, obviously. No, it's an interesting observation, and I think the car of I mean reaffirms to me that we shouldn't lose the connection with reality, and I think that's into some extent what's happening on some places. And yeah, I think in the end, and I was discussing it with Yannick, our marketing manager. He says like the whole thing about AI will be that people will go more physical again, right? So we will meet up in person more again because online there is one of the things that I see happening now is that basically when you do content marketing like we do, for example, you create articles, and we don't do that for marketing purposes. We do that because we care about what we know
And
and we
for
want to share
internal
that.
like an internal
Yes,
knowledge sharing, right?
and then the thing is that no one is ever going to read those articles anymore because when they Google or when they go on ChatGPT, it's deciding which article you're going to see. In the past, you could curate your own, or you could open a couple of articles. Right now, it's summarizing it for you, and no one is going to actually read the article. And so the whole content industry is going to die by that. Um, and it's the
Because
same
the
actually with
ad business is basically clicking on things, right? And that
yeah,
is a completely different
yeah,
paradigm.
yeah. And so there is a huge problem for me that basically, I mean, how are you going to learn about refreshing things? Let's say you're a startup, right? If search is not a thing anymore, if ads are not necessarily a thing anymore, how as a startup are you going to be seen by people? How will people learn about you?
Is it the same for us? Like in the end, it's word of mouth. Make sure you have a good product. Make sure you do
Yeah,
good
but
work, and then
yeah,
people
yeah.
will talk about it. In the end,
It I think
the like how we do marketing as well is like we very much believe in a physical contact, right? Whether it's talking to people, setting up events, and then that is still our best
I think
income of
yeah,
leads.
that's for sure. But if you're a product, I think it will become a lot harder because in the end, the big AI companies are just building the product inside them, right? So how, as a small company, I mean, will we end up with like 3, 4 big ecosystems that ate everything? I don't know. Maybe.
It's
And we'll
question
tell.
20 podcast with, right?
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to say, so this was an early version. I don't know, it probably will come out in the week that it should come out. But if you like what we're saying, subscribe.
Wait, what are we doing that now? I thought we didn't do those kind of things.
The marketing team asked me to do that. So subscribe, put a comment. If there's anything you want us to talk about or you want our opinion about, let us know as well. More than happy to discuss. Thanks for your time, Shimi, and see you in 2 weeks.
Have a good one.
Bye bye.